Welcome to Autism and Lifeline Links Facebook Live across the spectrum event. We're very happy to be here. We are at Any Baby Can once again, our amazing partners and hosts and thought leaders in the autism space here in San Antonio. We are excited. I'll tell you more about how we came to this subject, but today we have with us two amazing subject matter experts. We have Katya, Finta, or Kat, and she is the fairly new Autism Services Education Specialist here at Any Baby Can. So I know Any Baby Can is very excited to have her as a new part of their team.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you on our show, and I know I'm excited to have you as a member of our project. And Katya has been in the school systems a lot, so she's got amazing lens as an advocate for parents as well as someone who really understands the inner operations of that. So great to have her here. And then of course we have the lovely Lorene Dillard, and Lorene has got her own consulting company, the Lorene Dillard Advocacy and Consulting. And so Lorene is a mother of two children on the spectrum, and she has been, anyone who knows the space knows that Lorene has been around as an amazing advocate, an amazing friend. I know I called on her recently when there was a parent that was just struggling so hard, and I was like, she needs to talk to another mom who's been through the ringer. And so Lorene was just so gracious and helped walk that mom through some things. So two super smart gals right here. We're very excited. And I'm Cara Magrane, and I'm the Executive Director of Autism Lifeline Links. We are cross-posting and sharing with, I believe, almost all 14 of our partners today. Always go to autismlifelinelinks.org if you've not registered with us. If you are the parent of a person with autism, or if you are an adult or a self-advocate with autism, please go online and register. Click the Register Now button. It really helps us to get a better understanding of who's in our community, who's on the spectrum, what their needs are, and then also connect you with services that do exist, but it also helps us to better understand what does not exist so we can try to improve the overall system of care. So please go ahead and do that. And there you can also find links to our 14 electronic referral partners, as well as our community resource guide, which was the foundational guide from Any Baby Can. And then we incorporated all of the resource guides of all of our 14 partners. So the most recent one is up there now, and we are translating it into Spanish, actually. And that will be up in the, well, it's the fall today, but soon, a little later in the fall, a little later in the fall. So I was meeting with Lorene, and we were chatting at an event, and she's always so smart. I said, all right, come on by the office. Let's catch up. Let's find out what you're doing more in depth, what we're doing more in depth, and then how we can align. And so we started talking about all sorts of things, but then she started pulling out like these apps or these things. She's telling me all these different tools that are out there that you can use to help navigate, really coordinate and organize sometimes what can be seen as like a very chaotic kind of space, whether it's the medical stuff or the prescriptions, and all of the services, all of the appointments. And if you are lucky enough to have help, whether it is through waivers or through family or through friends, just coordinating all those humans about who's going to do what. And we have talked on this program a number of times before about that consistency, especially about behavior management or expectations. And, you know, Kat's shaking her head as an educator. She's like, my God, yes, consistency is key, both between home and school. And so we said, you know, we went back and we thought, what about like tips and tricks, little tools that are out there? It's a brave new world. There's lots more technology than we had 20 years ago that we could possibly use to help coordinate and organize managing the life of a family or a person with a disability more easily. So I'm going to pick one out and then have Lorene tell a little more about it. So she's sitting there and we're talking about meds or something, and she's like, oh yeah, I've got an app for that. And I'm like, of course you have an app for that, smarty, right? And so she shows me, and it's, you basically take the barcode, whatever, you zap it. So it's called Care Zone.
Yep.
And so Lorene's holding that up right now. And it does all sorts of smart things. I'm going to let her tell you. Go ahead.
Yes. If anybody, of course, obviously, with our children, we tend to have many medications that we manage. And as Cara did share, I have two children who are on the spectrum, and they do take a number of medications. And obviously I also have a daughter, I don't want to leave her out, but she takes a number of medications as well. Now, navigating that and keeping track of that was really difficult. So there's got to be something that is going to be available to me. So what do most parents do? We look for something that's free. So I started searching the App Store and found CareZone. And looking at CareZone, I started to see, would this work for me? Would this be something that I could actually make useful? What was really intriguing to me was how easy it was to use. Because in order to be able to upload the prescriptions, I thought, okay, great, I'm going to have to manually enter all of these prescriptions. Oh no, you just take a picture of the prescriptions and it uploads it for you. So it's going to actually put in like the dosage, the prescriber, where you got it filled, when the next refill's due, everything. So again, from it, it's going to organize it for you. The only thing that you actually have to manually put in is the schedule. So again, from that, if you want to take it in the morning or if you want to take it in the evening, because sometimes our doctors actually prescribe a medication, but the schedule might vary. Yeah. And so of course,
2 times a day, that can be whenever you want that. 2 times
exactly.
A day. Gotcha.
So of course, if you want it to be different than what the actual bottle says, then you're going to alter that a bit.
Yeah.
So, and of course, from that, it's going to also ask if you want reminders. So what you can do is set up
refills or whatever.
Reminders to take your medication. So what you can do also is actually assign it to another individual who can also be in charge of monitoring whether or not this individual is taking the medication. So it'll pop up as a reminder that you can click whether or not that individual has taken that medication. So it'll alert you if that person did not take that medication. So what it does is it'll actually organize the medication for you so that you can keep track of whether or not there's a refill due, whether or not the medication is current, if it's expired, because it'll actually come up as a red highlighted that the medication is about to expire and you need to contact your doctor.
It's so neat. I hope Facebook World is watching and thinks this is cool as I do. I know that even for families that are not managing somebody with a special need, most families have lots of medications, and so being able to have such a tool is great. And I think about, as I alluded to earlier, that keeping schedules and keeping all that is so important. So, Kat, you want to talk a little bit about how important that is, and you see it especially in the autism program here. One of the things, can you talk a little about how families struggle with and how a tool like this could be helpful?
So in the schools, we do schedule-based curriculums. They have their visual schedule. It's pretty much the same every day of what they do. And at home, that's a whole different world, right? We have things come in, people come to visit, emergencies. So this would be fantastic, just keeping the parents on a schedule as well, to help their kids know, okay, it's time to take my medicine. Because we know all kids don't love taking their meds. But if they know exactly what time it is, they know that expectation, it helps with the behavior aspect of that.
And that's really interesting. We have recently had the adult listening sessions, and Lorene's children were there as well as she was. And it was really amazing to me. We just finished compiling the feedback from that. And one of the things that we really found was a lot of the guys, the adults with the adult self-advocates, they didn't necessarily know who their doctor was or what their meds were. And so trying to figure, making that, how do we not overwhelm them, but also let them know what their self-advocacy role is, and knowing that. And especially now, so many people on the spectrum, especially like the technology, the phone, the media, you and I talked about that a little bit, are really readily available for somebody to, if they don't remember it. I don't remember. Somebody asked me the other day, I'm like, I don't, something for acne, I'm not really sure. I don't know what it is, but if you could pull up your telephone and have that, so that when there is an emergency, or even when you're at your practitioner's office, or at a behavioral health appointment, right, you know what that is. All right, so one of the other thing is, speaking of schedules and keeping things in order and online, so Lorene and I were talking about that, as she said, that kids, some guys have their own staff, right? Some guys have a grandma taking care of them, and all this kind of, lots of people, many hands, right, in helping to manage this. And so even if that's somebody's job coach, one of the things that we talked about is, how do you keep all of that organized? And so Lorene has yet another amazing app, which is called the Cozy Family Organizer. And so you want to hold that guy up. And this and again, it's free. These things are free with ads. You have to tolerate the ads, but I think we do that in pretty much everything we do anyway. And this is a shared calendar, and I want her to talk about, like, okay, great, I mean, we have Google Docs, shared calendars are not this crazy new concept, but within a family or within an extended family, whatever your tribe is that's helping care for that child or that person, is so important. But the thing is, tell them more about how you can assign. So it's more than, oh, it's a calendar to know, like the family calendar, know who's got soccer practice. Go, it's amazing.
Yes. With this, what I needed to do was to be able to find, because we are very fortunate to be able to receive waiver services for our boys. And so obviously with doctor's appointments, with therapies, with competing priorities that need to be able to happen on a consistent basis, I needed something that would be able to function, to be able to say who is going to take Travis to therapy, who is going to take Kyle to speech, Travis to occupational therapy, and to be able to be 20 places at once. This app did allow me to be able to put in all of the different appointments that needed to happen on a concurrent basis and to assign it to different providers. You can even assign it to yourself, because obviously that's something that I needed to know, hey, I need to block time out in my day to be able to take either my daughter or one of my sons to a particular appointment. So that again, it will send an email to that individual to be able to help them be aware of a particular appointment that I have assigned them to. The other thing too is that say, because things happen, obviously the doctor's gonna call and say, I need to cancel that appointment, or I need to move you to a different time. Somebody who goes in and changes that appointment, it's going to alert anybody who's involved with that appointment that there's been a change to that appointment. So that again, everybody's aware, oh, there's going to be a change, because what's going to happen is on the phone itself, a notification is going to pop up and say, cozy alert, there's been an actual change to this appointment, and what that time is going to be different. What's really great too that I did fail to mention was that both of these apps are going to be available on either Samsung or Android and Apple devices. And so what makes that really great too is that you can assign with Cozy, there is no limit to how many individuals you can have access to that family account. So you can have 5 people signing into the same account. And again, so as long as they can have that app loaded on their phone and have the available space via memory, they can access the account and be able to have that opportunity to view it and to be able to have a profile established for them.
All I keep thinking of is like, it's Outlook and Slack combined, right? You're assigning tasks, and then somebody has to be accountable for it and timelines it. So it's super, super great. So in that same vein about keeping organized and knowing where everything is, we were talking about, especially we're also working with Any Baby Can and Alamo Area Council of Governments on some first responder stuff, trying to align the community responses. Both have amazing first responder programs. We're working to try to align the terminology, who we're outreaching to, creating modules that if you only have an hour, what do we need to get to them? What if they have 8 hours? What do we want to get to them, and at what depth? So this came up when we've been talking at other times around here, but then it has really become very resonant as we're working with the first responders, because a lot of our guys may have communication disorders, and even if they have, if they're verbal, right, still under stress, language goes down, the heightened responses, and so often, and we think even on neurotypicals, when we're frazzled, our communication is one of the first things to go. I mean, the wheels are spinning, but it isn't making its way into translation. So I'm going to have Kat talk a little bit about this really neat ID, my ID sticker. So she's going to tell us a little about it.
So there are all different products with my ID, but the sticker kit comes with 4 stickers, and the QR code is unique to you, especially also with the PIN and ID. So the profile online is free. You go to getmyid.com and you set up your profile. In this profile, you can talk all about your child. If they have autism, if they're nonverbal, some things that they don't like, so some triggers. really give a whole narrative about your child, as well as their personal information. You can add a picture on there, as well as their address, emergency contacts, doctor, insurance, all of their information. And you save it, and you can add other children, but you will need different IDs. So you get this little ID kit, it's $8.95, and there's 4 stickers, and you can attach these to little zipper tags, shoe tags, dog tag bracelets, or necklaces. You can put it on a helmet, on their backpack,
On the shoelace.
on the shoelaces, really anything, because we know that our kids do have sensory issues. Really, we would love for them to be wearing a bracelet, especially first responders, but sometimes that takes a while to desensitize them to that. So these are great options for any other type of ID. So really it has everything in it. The first responder would then just take their phone and scan the QR code, and everything would pop up. So it takes about 5 seconds for them to get all the information plus a picture. This can be shared also. The profile can be shared to other family members, and they can attach to that. And then there's also alerts that can go to your phone. And so you put all of your information in, even blood type, if you're an organ donor. They have everything. This is also good if possibly you're in a car accident or some type of accident, and so the parent may not be able to tell them they're taking this medication, this dosage, but they have it right there.
And so this, I believe, was originally designed for medical reasons, right? And so what the autism community or the disability community has done is very much adopt and adapt this, because it's a great tool, but as Kat said, it's as much about first responders for emergency medical stuff, right, as if someone's lost, right?
Yes.
Or those kinds of things that we know happen. We hear about it all the time. Someone's roaming, someone's lost, somebody is eloper, like say,
And you can put all of the information where they typically go as well in the
Really?
box. Yeah, you can put as much as you want, and you put the condition, you can add conditions, add allergies, and add notes to almost every box that you put in there, so that they really get a full picture of the kid.
That's amazing. And what's the number of families that say, for example, in your autism program that are adopting this? Or
We actually now give this out for every safety training. It's part of our safety toolbox. So we are having a safety training on November 5th. So please sign up, and you will receive one of these. And if you have multiple kids with a disability or healthcare, just ask us, and we can help direct you to get one of these. You can even order them on Amazon. They have them there as well. But they have other products too. They have a bracelet that you can get that has the pod and the QR code embedded in it.
Like a
They have
Fitbit.
necklaces. Yes, it looks like a Fitbit.
Okay.
But they have charm bracelets, necklaces. So they have all different types, and they range from $10 to $35 for those. But these, you can put them anywhere. $8.95, and for 4 of them, it's great.
I have to say, something like that is so very important. I always share when Travis, who's now 19, was 8 years old, he eloped from the home.
Yeah.
When Julia was very little, where SAP had to be called, the helicopter was dispatched. He was gone for a while. And you, as a parent, you become extremely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And you lose words, you lose everything at that time. Thank goodness he was found.
Yeah.
But again, from that, to have something like that would be amazing to be able to.
And I do wonder, so we had the sheriff here a few sessions ago to talk about safety and all those kinds of things in the community, and so we didn't talk about this. This is one of those pluses. I'm curious, and I don't know if you know, Kat, but who can see that? So, I mean, the first responders of the world, or like if I'm a person walking down the street and I see somebody and I see one of those things hanging off
You
their
can
shoe,
go and scan it.
and then I can find out where their mom is, and I can make a call. Wow. That's
How
interesting.
important that is.
And you can't, if you don't have a QR scanner on your phone,
Right.
you can call the number, and you can also go to the website as well. So it has everything on this sticker that you need.
That's amazing. All right. I just want to pause for a second and let people know that they can go to the Any Baby Can Facebook page or the Autism Lifeline Links Facebook page and submit questions. We want to hear what you have to ask, or if you have another super cool tip and trick that we don't know, always sharing that with everybody. Also let you know that we will get all of these tools, this form that Lorene had made up, and we'll get it up on our Facebook page later today. So the next thing I want to talk about is, so as we said, this started with kind of a medical lens, but it is morphed into something that could be much more helpful for all of us. And it's we're often talking from the lens of autism or developmental disability, but I think there's always your mother who's living with you. You're one of those sandwich caregivers, right? You're taking care of your kid and you're taking care of your mom. To be able to coordinate and collaborate, because even with the cozy thing, Lorene has multiple people in there, and it's all in one place, right? So knowing that it's not an if-then proposition, it's not just for your child with autism or for your young adult with autism. You can take all these tools and apply them across every piece of what you might be managing for a family. So then in that zone, doctor's appointments, right? Doctor's appointments can be overwhelming, period. I mean, for everybody. I know I do the thing where I'm like, all right, don't forget to ask them this, this, and that, and I put it in my phone. And then I get in there and I always forget my phone, or I decide I'm gonna write it on my piece of paper. And then inevitably I walk out and I go, wait a minute, like I forgot to ask him this, or I told him I didn't need a refill. So once again, some more really cool tools that Lorene has not only found but has also created. And can you talk a little bit about the, basically, like you have a tool that's, what does a successful doctor's appointment look like? And so can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, my children have had to visit numerous doctors due to some medical concerns as well. So they have a pretty extensive list of specialists. But of course, in the autism world, our children visit a battery of specialists. What I really quickly noticed was that the doctors didn't seem to continue to move forward with the progress of what was going on with each individual child. And there was always a catch-up that needed to happen, and that wasn't something that I was okay with. So I started to really look at what needed to happen. So what I took on some of that role and started to create ways to make that role easier for me, because obviously who's got time for that? So what I started to do was to notice what were some of the common denominators that seemed to constantly happen, and started to look at what would be like a checklist of sorts that needed to occur on each and every appointment. So what I do is I prepare a envelope each and every doctor's appointment that I prepare ahead of time. That's going to have, again, the patient's name, which will have my child's name, the date of birth, and the doctor's name. And in that in that envelope, I'm going to have the completed checklist that is going to have on there things such as ensuring that I have the list of current prescriptions. Again, some doctors require physical prescriptions to be brought. Show the notes of concerns that you have regarding the prescriptions, because maybe you've been taking the prescriptions and there's been some side effects. Current insurance information, because maybe you've had a change in your insurance. Again, a lot of people don't know that you have an option to be able to get copies of labs or any recent procedures that have been done. I have found that to be extremely useful. So anytime that you have taken your child for labs, you want to always request copies of those labs from your doctor or from the facility, and it's considered a medical document. Why is that important? Is because each doctor that you go to is going to want to see those labs, because again, those labs are going to tell you what is going on with your child.
Do we know, so often what we hear from families is, yes, the doctor says I can have it, but he's going to charge me $5 for the copies kind of thing. And I don't think that,
No.
Do we know legally if that's even?
No, it is your medical record, therefore you are given the option to get a copy of that record. So no, you should not be charged. The only time you're going to be charged for an actual copy is if you're wanting a complete copy of your medical file.
Okay.
So again, getting a copy of your lab should be of no charge to you. So again, same thing with procedures. If you've had like an MRI, an X-ray, a CT scan, that's something that should be given that report to you at no charge. You can also get a copy of the actual scan itself onto a DVD, or a CD, I should say. So if you're at the hospital, you want to go ahead and get a request for that. The reason why that's important is because when you go to another specialist, what ends up happening, you have a delay, because of course that specialist is going to want to see that CD and they're going to have to request it. Well, if you can say, I've got it, then what ends up happening, that appointment happens much faster,
Right.
because you've already got a copy of that CD and you can bring it to your appointment.
Well, and these questions are, are you really prepared? Are you, think, do you know what questions you have? Do you have your current insurance information?
Mm-hmm.
Have you had labs? They're all things that are asked on that form when you check into the doctor's appointment, but more importantly, a lot of that time, as you say, is spent in the beginning of the catch-up part of it, so you can be much more efficient with that. It's neat because one of the first things on here that many people don't think about, but it's true, it's like if you need, have you arranged for transportation to the appointment, to and from the appointment? And that's so important because so often it's like, oh wait, I have a transportation problem. And so these are all those compounding things that can happen with a family about what's going on. And then the next thing that she has is like an appointment tracker that goes with this, and Lorene's holding that up now, and it just at a glance, to me, it's so helpful. I know that electronic medical records is supposed to be the cornerstone of everything, but I think what we've all known, at least me, I have multiple practitioners, I go in and I have to say, do you have the labs from the endocrinology? Do you have the labs from your, and they don't, even though I tell them, send this to doctor, send this to doctor. And so this to me, again, Lorene had held it up, it's very straightforward. I mean, it's the keep it simple kind of rule,
Yep.
but it's very helpful to be able to say at a glance, these are my specialists, this is ultimately what happened, and then going from there. And then I think the last thing that I want you to talk about is just this template for the questions for your doctor, so that you are succinct. So often, I think a practitioner will ask a question and we haven't really framed it out well or articulated it in a way to understand, or they're gonna have that follow-up question like, well, is it only on the weekends? Is it only when you have meetings with You Go from Anywhere You Can that you feel this way? And I'm like, as a matter of fact, forget about it. That's the problem. It's not. So what are those things? Can you talk a little bit about that?
The reason why it's so important to think about your questions ahead of time is because when we get in the doctor's appointments, we often feel a little overwhelmed, a little pressured, and those questions may not come as forthcoming. So when you think about your questions ahead of time, and I've included some example questions that kind of seem to be the standard questions that we have at our doctor's appointments. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of fill it out and to be able to have that option to be able to really reflect on what it is that you might want to discuss with your practitioner. Because what do we do at every appointment? The doctor will kind of end it with, do you have any questions for me? And many times we were like, no, but boy, I tell you, as soon as you get in the car, you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have asked this. So this gives you, write it down, and so what you can do is of course, I always try to have a pen with me so that as he's answering something, I can write it down myself. Then what it's going to do is, also in your appointment tracker, it's going to ask you here, summary of appointment and possible next action item. You're going to want to log that because, of course, your next appointment is your next column area to be able to log what's kind of my next point of action that I need to be able to do. This is going to be your ongoing document so that you're able to just continue to, like I had mentioned before, move forward with your doctor's appointments so that you can become more proactive in making sure that your child is making that success towards making progress and being able to actually really benefit from those appointments and making progress towards futures.
Two things. One, I can even see a lot of these tools being used just in family communications or organization or behaviors or things you're trying, like the toileting. We talked about that a few episodes ago, right? Even things like this. I mean, it's you inserted a grid, right? And then so we encourage you to be creative. No one tool is going to be perfect for everybody. And I'm sure Lorene tried a million things before she landed on these. And so I think that's really important to figure out how do you navigate each space. There's going to be no one answer for everybody. but we encourage you to do that. And then the other thing that's really important that on this questions for my physician piece, so often I think that we are, all of us, including myself, are intimidated, we don't know why, by our physicians, right? Because they're a doctor, right? Society is like, well, they're a doctor. But we love all doctors, to be clear. But, you know, ask the questions. Their job is to hear and know everything. And so often when the doctor, as you just said, says, do you have any questions? We're like, no, that's fine. Or the doctor says, do this, or try that. And we're like, okay, well, but we don't necessarily say, but we already tried that, or the other physician said I shouldn't. Please, 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 we know it can be difficult, we know it can be challenging at times, but practice that advocacy for yourself, for your family, for your child, for your, you know, just, there's no stupid question, there's no, you can ask a doctor to clarify, you can't ask a doctor a question, you can also tell the doctor that, but we've tried that, and it didn't work, so is there something else? So not telling you to not follow medical advice as, you know, as a clarifier, but it's important that it's a dialogue and it's a discussion, and it isn't just something that you're sitting there being directed to do. So we want to make sure that's true.
I would even say too, talk to your child's teacher as well.
Yeah.
Fill them in on what's going on and ask them questions, because they see them in a different type of environment, and they might be able to pick up on, oh, I feel like this medication's wearing off at this time every single day. And that's great information for you to know as a parent that you can then go to your doctor and say as well. So keep those teachers in the loop, school nurses, everyone as a team.
That's so important, because I mean, we know how much time they're spending at school, and if it's not going right there, then we know what the cascade is at home. All right, so the last thing we want to do is touch on haircuts. We know this is, you know, transportation, haircuts, medical, all the stuff, but haircuts. Knowing our guys with sensory issues have a challenge. Any Baby Can, again, always an amazing partner and thought leader. They have just gone in and working with Fantastic Sams. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we went into Fantastic Sams at Arbor Park, the one off San Pedro, and we went and trained the stylists on different creative ways to possibly cut their hair. We don't always have to do it in a chair. You can walk, you can sit on the ground, but we would love for them to eventually be able to sit in the chair and be able to follow that schedule. So we created schedules for them to chart some behavior techniques, as well as using that communication. But for the parents, we also need for them to be involved. It needs to be a big team. So on our website, we do have these documents under the Autism Services Program. There are haircut guidelines and guardian responsibilities. So the biggest thing is really calling the hair salon before you even take your child, because that gives them an opportunity to say, hey, this is a time where we're a little bit slow, there's not as many people there, and we can, you know, take an hour to do it. But set up a preview appointment first. This is where you're not necessarily going to have the child get their hair cut, but they're going to go in, they're going to experience sitting in the chair, possibly looking at the tools, and just being in that environment. And then you can set up your appointment. But when you do set up your appointment, please make sure to let the salon know these are some sensory issues that he's having. Let them know the type of haircut you want so that they can get that schedule ready for them. And things that they like to do, things they like to talk about, because that's a great point for those stylists to be able to redirect them and talk about things that they enjoy while they're maybe participating in a haircut that they don't love. Another thing on our website is a social narrative for getting your haircut. This really takes the child through what they're going to expect, things they're going to do, things they're going to see, and then how they react to it. Some good replacement behaviors for maybe crying or running away or getting upset. So this is fantastic. You want to review this 3 to 5 days, consecutive days, before you go for your preview and before your appointment. It really will help teach those expectations.
So What's neat is the resonant theme, which we didn't think of. We'd like to think we're grand designers, but the theme that's running through here really is about setting yourself up, your loved one with autism, you and even the people who are caring for them, whether it's the nurses, the practitioners, the caregivers, the hair cutters, for success, right? I mean, so often it's those things that prevent us from including ourselves further or going into the community or having a successful or a good relationship with a practitioner, right? At the end of the day, these are just some tips and tricks to make sure that everybody's set up for success. And they don't take that much time extra in the beginning, but what they really do, I think we can all speak to this, is you practice these things after a while, you're not even going to realize how stressful that appointment used to be, right? Because now you have that confidence and you're set up for that success. And of course, we always want our guys to have the most success possible. So again, I want to thank Lorene, I want to thank Kat, I want to thank Any Baby Can for hosting us again, and Leslie from Southwind Fields for always being our Facebook guru and getting everybody connected on our, what is it called? Face link something? Cross-posting. Cross-posting. I'm the tech person, you know that. So thank you, and as Kat said, we're gonna post the cool things that Lorene has up on our website. Kat has these links on the Any Baby Can Facebook page and just on the interweb.
It's our website.
Okay, and of course, please do remember Autism Lifeline Links has the resource guide. Go register if you're not registered, and we can all continue to work together and communicate to break down silos and improve the system of care for our loved ones with autism. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.